Our project focused on improving pre-procedural imaging techniques of the implantation of the Watchman device into the left atrial appendage, or LAA, of the heart. Including the LAA with the Watchman decreases the risk of stroke for patients with atrial fibrillation. However, some patients' anatomies do not meet the procedure requirements for the Watchman, thus other methods like anticoagulant drugs are used. Current preoperative imaging consists of transesophageal echocardiograms or CT scans.
The problem that we are faced with is that the current preoperative imaging technique used for the Watchman implantation is a transesophageal echocardiogram. This is proving to be inefficient, leading to incorrect sizing of the device and unsuccessful implantation, with an average of 1.8 devices needed for each procedure. The overarching goal of this project was to convert patient-specific heart structures, the LAA, taken by CT scan to a 3D printed model. This was done by using a freeware program series to achieve comparable results to that of payware programs.
We will now look at our freeware design process, starting with the image segmentation and modeling with 3D Slicer. The 3D Slicer software provides tools to threshold, isolate, and hollow the LAA, all of which are shown in a time lapse that will follow the slide. This process is essential for finding the maximum diameter and depth of the LAA. Once completed, the model is exported as an STL file to the Autodesk Meshmixer software for further editing. We will now move on to the second part of our freeware design process, which focuses on 3D modeling and mesh generation within the Autodesk Meshmixer software. The Meshmixer software provides mesh analysis tools to correct for errors within the model, and an editing tool to make a planar cut at the ostium to allow for measurements to be made. The finalized model, as seen in the right image in Figure 5, is then exported to the Cura software for 3D printing.
After finalizing the STL files, one freeware and one payware model were chosen for 3D printing. Cura printing software was used, and settings were adjusted in order to print with sufficient detail. An expensive payware software, Mimix Innovation Suite, has a precedent of clinical use. It was used as a standard for comparison in our project and was also used for testing and measurements of both freeware and payware STL models.
The depth and diameter of all virtual and physical 3D models were measured using Mimix and a digital caliper, respectively. Measurements were taken by each member of the team, and the mean and standard deviation were calculated.
The results of this project unfortunately lack strength and confidence due to the small sample size of 8 patients. A minimum of 149 patients would be required to achieve a 90% confidence interval. Variability between users of the freeware process, as well as variability introduced through our testing procedure, were investigated. Standard deviations stayed within an acceptable range to maintain accuracy. The freeware and payware models correlate very well, with fair to moderate correlation strength. P-values were larger than ideal, indicating low significance of these findings due to the small sample size used. Much of the variability seen in this project could be attributed to the challenging anatomy of the patients the team studied. Only patients with difficult anatomy were referred for a CT in addition to the standard TEE. Therefore, the variability seen in this project is probably at the upper end of the spectrum.
A future consideration for this project would be the creation of a guided user interface guiding the user through the segmentation process, or eliminating 3D printing of the LAA and performing all measurements within the software. The freeware software can also be applied to other anatomies, such as the cranium, where one can view vasculature or bone for a cochlear implant.